Welcome back, paranormal fans. We've got another otherworldly tale for you this week. This week, we're delving into the Bell Witch haunting, the history, the haunting, and straight through to the current day. Make sure to stick around to the end to hear our discussion on The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, and a recommended paranormal account that we think you'll love as much as we do. Now grab a snack, cuddle up, and jump into the unknown with us.
Well, in 1804, John and Lucy Bell moved their family from North Carolina to Tennessee and settled onto 320 acres of farmland that would become their home and the scene of one of the most well-known hauntings in American history. However, the Bells lived on and worked this land for 13 years before they would begin to experience the strange occurrence that would secure their place forever in the history books. The Bells were a respected and prominent family in the area. John was a deacon of the church and the principal property owner in the area. Though well liked by most of his neighbors, a feud with the Bates family would set off a chain of events that would climax in stopping an engagement and the first record death by spirit in American history. The trouble between the Bells and Bates family began over the purchase of a young female slave. John Bell and Benjamin Bates agreed to a price of $100 to sell her for the highest. Oh, wait, sorry. That was my bad. Agreed to a price of $100 and Bell paid. However, Bates thought he could get more for her and threatened to sell her for a higher price. Bell told him if he did that, he would owe him $150 in return. Bates then gave Bell the girl. However, Bates was upset about this deal and began circulating a story that John Bell had lent him money and charged him an exuberant amount of interest. Bell took this matter to the church in July of 1817 in hopes to squish this rumor. The church heard both sides and after adjourning for the day, came back to deliver their verdict that John Bell was justified in his handle of the situation. October of 1817 saw the issue between the Bates and Bells became reheard by the church. This time, those in the church found Bell guilty of sacrilege, and after John addressed the congregation with contemporary words. He then withdrew from his position as the deacon. On January 13th, 1819, Red River Baptist Church official voted and excommunicate John Bell from the church. October 1819 saw another church in the area took up the case of John Bell and tried to intervene. They came to the conclusion that the original case in July was properly handled and that the excommunication was unfounded, that John Bell was not guilty of convertus. However, the Red River Baptist Church would not hear the evidence. The feud between the families took place in more than just the church, and in the summer of 1817, some members of the Bell family began to see strange-looking creatures around the property. The first instance was John and his sons were out on the property hunting, and John came across what he thought was a big, large dog. However, the dog wasn't normal. It had the head of a rabbit. He raised his gun and shot at the creature. When he lowered his gun to inspect his shot, the creature had vanished. Not wanting to worry or scare his family, John kept the incident to himself. The Bell children also saw a woman hanging from a tree one day. while they were playing in the fields. They rushed home to get their father, but when they returned, the women had vanished. Betsy Bell saw a young girl in a green dress on the swings one day that no one else could see. Strange creatures, vanishing figures weren't the only occurrence around the property, though. The family began to hear what sounds like stones being thrown at the side of the house. This was not very troubling in the beginning. They assumed that this was the Bates family trying to scare and intimidate them.
John and his sons would go outside and try to catch whoever was doing it, but they never found anyone. Soon, the sounds began to come from inside the house. They began hearing what sounded like chains being dropped and drug across the floor, rats gnawing on the bedposts, and knocks and bumps coming from within the walls. Eventually, they heard what sounded like a whispering voice, though they were unable to distinguish what the voice was saying. Then, blankets began being pulled from the Bells while they slept. The kids would wake with welts and bruises. The family kept this to themselves for over a year until John Sr. and 11-year-old Betsy Bell began being targeted. Betsy would experience her hair being pulled, tied in knots, and even tied to her bedposts. The spirit would slap her, scratch her, and just generally torment the girl. As these incidents gained in occurrence and violence, the voice became legible. The spirit claimed that she was there to kill John Bell, or Old Jack, as she called him, and would laugh when Betsy would break down and cry from the torment that the spirit put her through. At their wits' end, John and Lucy invited a neighbor and friend, James Johnson, and his wife to dinner and to stay the night. The Johnsons also experienced the phenomenon, and this is where the term witch first gained ground. During this time, when the Bells would naturally turn to their religion for guidance and their church for support, the Red River Baptist Church revisited their former decision on the Bats and Bells dispute and reversed the decision, leaving the Bells excommunicated from the church and quite alone to deal with their witch problem. When asked who she was, the spirit gave various answers. One responding that she was the spirit of a Native American whose burial site had been disturbed. The Bell children had discovered a burial site and brought a skull back to the farm. John Bell was outraged at his children for disturbing the burial site and made them return the skull. The spirit claimed that one of the teeth had fallen from the skull and that it was under the porch. The Bellmen and some of their friends dug up the entirety of the porch area, which caused the spirit to laugh at them and call them fools for believing her. The spirit also claimed to be the witch of Kate Batts, sister-in-law to Benjamin, and progressively began distinguishing herself with the name of Kate. Due to the feud with the Batts family and the fact that Kate Batts was not wholly liked by most of the residents of the town, the idea of the spirit being sent by Kate Batts stuck.
Enjoying what you've heard so far? Be sure you never miss an episode by following us. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
However, being excommunicated from the church did not stop word from spreading about the spirit haunting the Bell property. People began coming from far and wide to witness the haunting for themselves. The witch was never malevolent to visitors and would even shake hands with them when offered. She was sought for her premonitions of the future and could travel to other places and report back on the welfare of family members for those who were visiting and worried about their family, but they had no other means to go see them. Other families in the area had also experience with the witch, but none so frequent or violent as the Bells. One of those who reported an instance with the witch was William Porter, who claimed that the witch crawled into bed with him one night. This allowed him to capture the witch in the sheets. He attempted to carry the witch to the fire in his bedroom. However, the weight and stench coming from the witch caused him to be unsuccessful. That's weird.
Yeah, that's actually really creepy.
It really is, and it's kind of funny to me as well.
Yeah, I can just imagine a guy just like trying to drag like his sheets to the fire.
I'm just thinking, like, why would this witch or spirit or whatever she was crawl into bed with him?
Yeah, with that one person.
Exactly.
I feel like this was an overactive imagination.
I think so too.
I think so too. That is definitely made up.
The Bell family slaves were also targeted by the witch and subjected to her torture. They were beaten, and the witch would prevent them from entering the home. One slave in particular, Dean, reported encountering the witch on multiple occasions when he would go to visit his wife, who was on a neighboring estate. The witch appeared as a black dog or wolf, sometimes with 2 heads, sometimes with no head, and would growl and stalk him. He claimed to have been turned into a mule on multiple occasions and attacked by the witch. He took to carrying his axe with him wherever he went, and a witch ball for protection that his wife made him. One famous visitor to the Bell homestead was General Andrew Jackson, the future 7th president of the United States, who owned property not far from the Bells and had served with several of the Bell sons. It is believed that Jackson was the one who coined the phrase the Bell Witch, though there are no reliable historical documents to back up this visit. It is generally believed to have taken place, as it would not have been uncommon for Jackson to have been in the area, and quite possible that he would have visited with a neighboring landowner.
According to the recounting of his visit, the retinue that was traveling with Jackson became stuck, not in mud or due to a wheel breaking, but on a perfectly fine road. The spirit had heard one of the men with Jackson claim that the witch was afraid of him because he had a bullet named the Witch Tamer in his pistol, and that he would kill her if he saw her. Jackson is said to have joked that it must be the witch's doing, and a voice was heard to reply, "All right, General, let the wagon move on, and I'll see you again tonight." The Jackson party was scheduled to stay a week, but moved on the next day after experiencing hair pulling, pinching, and slapping, all the while hearing the screams of Betsy as the witch put her through her nightly torture. Many people came to try and exorcise the witch from the property. One of these was Dr. Mees, I believe.
I think that's how you say that.
Yeah.
Dr. Mees, a conjurer from Simpson, Kentucky.
Hey, Kentucky.
Oh no, not this again.
The witch mocked him and frightened him so much that he fled the property. The Bell Witch was very involved in the lives of the Bells. So involved, in fact, that she felt the need to voice her unhappiness in Betsy's relationship with Joshua Gardner, telling Betsy not to marry him. Betsy was deeply attached to Gardner, however. She would follow the demands of the spirit, and they broke up. Though the Bell Witch enjoyed tormenting John and Betsy Bell, Lucy Bell was declared by the spirit to be the most perfect woman living. And it is reported that when Lucy fell ill, the spirit would leave treats for her to eat and would sing hymns to her. It is interesting to note that Lucy and Kate Batts were related. Lucy was Kate's aunt. As Lucy began recovering, John began to fall ill. He experienced what today would be likely classified as neurological issues, but in the early 20th century, there was little known about such disorders. In October of 1820, John suffered what was likely a stroke, and though able to go about his work due to a medicine that was mixed to help elevate some of his pain, he spent much of his time in bed. And on the night of December 19th, 1820, he went to his bed and never woke again. When John Jr. went to discover why his father was still abed, he discovered his lifeless body. He went to the cupboard where John kept his medicine, and instead of finding 3 vials, there was only 1. The bottle was 1/3 filled with a smoky substance of an unknown origin. Upon discovery of this vial, the witch was said to have laughed and gleefully declared to have given old Jack a big dose of it last night while he was fast asleep, which fixed him. The death of John Bell was legally ruled death by supernatural occurrence. The Bell Witch was not content to just have killed John Bell. She also attended his funeral, where she laughed at his death and sang body-drinking songs. The witch really, really, really did not like John Bell.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But I would love to have heard this disembodied voice singing body drinking songs.
I know.
Right?
Oh, that's just so crazy. Betsy and Joshua Gardner reunited shortly after the death of Betsy's father, and once again the witch tormented Betsy to end the relationship. Finally giving up on her childhood sweetheart, Betsy ended their relationship forever. She would eventually marry her old school teacher, whose wife died conveniently under unusual circumstances. I'd say he probably forced
Mhm.
her to get married. Wow. In 1821, the Bell Witch declared that she was leaving for a time, but that she would return in 7 years' time. The number seven is considered to be particularly powerful in the spiritual sense, as it combines the physical, the number four, with the spiritual, the number three. With that knowledge, it is not unusual to think that the spirit would choose to return in 7 years. And she kept her word when she returned and spent a couple of weeks with John Bell Jr., talking about the past events and giving him prophecies about the future. She promised to return in 1932, though there were no known account of her returning. There are descendants of the Bell family still living in Adams, Tennessee today, and many of them still claim to have experienced the Bell Witch for themselves. Mostly, these occurrences are just strange happenings that they attribute to the witch, with one member, Lucy Bell Butler, named for her great grandmother Lucy Bell, believing that those of the Bell family who are good experience the playful and kind side of Kate, while those who are not good experience the vengeful side of her. The Bell Witch is well known, especially to those who grew up in Tennessee, where the legend is taught in schools. There have been multiple versions of the Bell Witch story told through film and book, with the most well-known adaptation being The Blair Witch. What do you think? Do you think the Bell Witch was a true haunting? What do you think, ladies?
I think, yeah, it's a possibility.
Something definitely happened. I mean, there's enough recalled stories, I guess. Like people came from all over to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
What I find fascinating about the witch is how she interacted with the family members, how she was so nice to Lucy, and then just so miserable to John and Betsy,
Yes.
and just the way that she came back later on when she said that she would, and she held these conversations with John Bell Jr. And just just the way she interacted overall with the family. I think she's such a long-lived spirit. I do believe that there is some truth, definitely not some truth. I do believe that haunting is real. I believe that. But I would have really loved to know what she had against Betsy getting married to Joshua Gardner in particular.
Yeah, well, I think maybe it's just because it made her happy and she
Yeah.
didn't want to see him happy.
Yeah, I think that's it too.
Yeah, but I mean, from all the children that John and Lucy had, she's particularly targeted Betsy.
Yeah, I don't know why. That is the interesting question.
Yeah. And then later on, just a while ago, in saying that if you were particularly good, she was really happy with you. And if you were bad, then she wasn't. So maybe Betsy and John were really horrible people. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all of the research, like John at least was well liked by his neighbors.
Yes, he appeared to be such an upstanding citizen in the community, especially within his church, even until he was excommunicated, which sounds like it was unfairly done anyway.
Right. And it all was happening like when the haunting was going on. So it's almost like the church was just like, we don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That was actually kind of funny because like usually the church is supposed to be the one helping. And they're just like, nah, I'm good.
Back then, I think if something like that was happening, they would be a bit freaked out themselves. That's what I think.
Right, because it wasn't like that long after like the witch trials happened in the United States.
That is true.
So there was probably a lot of like
According to some sites
Hold on.
Okay, Alexa.
Nobody asked you, Alexa.
She was in on the conversation.
Right? Jeez, I didn't think those things listened in. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Proof. But yeah, like it wasn't that long after the witch trial, so I'm sure there was still a lot of like negativity connected to like I mean, there's even negativity connected to witchcraft now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could definitely see how the church would just walk away from that.
Yeah, I can see that too.
And they already had a case that would allow them to do that if they decided to reverse their original decision.
That's true. That's true.
Yep. So that's it with the Bell Witch. That was an interesting story to read.
Yes.
Thank you, definitely. So, guys, I have a fantastic news that I want to share with our listeners on Instagram. And if you haven't checked us out on Instagram, shame on you. You should totally head over and check us out, Black Cat Crossing, our podcast on Instagram. Check us out. We post nice little stories, little creepy stories, little facts about the cases that we're covering, and just nice little info. We are, well, I'm happy to say that we have hit our 100 follower mark, which totally took us by surprise.
We were so excited today when it happened.
In fact, we've actually gone over the 100 mark. But a big shout out to our 100th follower, and that is the Creepy AF Show on Instagram. And if you are not following them, you should totally head over, check them out. They have tons of creepy stuff on their page, and they also have a YouTube channel, so you could check them out. It is Creepy AF Show on Instagram. Head on over.
Definitely check it out.
Yes, check it out.
Yep.
Well, so it comes to that point where now we have our movie, which one thing I was so excited about. So excited.
Me too.
Oh my God. And can you guess what it was? The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yes.
So what did you guys think about it?
Oh my God, this movie. I am not sure what I expected from The Conjuring 3. I didn't know that I expected it to be good, and it was. In fact, it was beyond good. I was so intrigued. It wasn't exactly like what I researched for the Devil Made Me Do It podcast, which was last week's show, which I hope by now our listeners would have listened to. And that is understandable. But I was curious about what happened to Annie after his incarceration, because we didn't get much information after that. And like, how did the demon leave, for one? And, you know, I don't think that it quite happened the way that it did in the movie, but it was a nice bit of closure, I suppose, for me. I still want to know what caused this all to happen in the first place. And it was a fascinating take on the occult. And I still don't know why David was targeted initially, and for what purpose, and what was the link to the witch and the Glatzel family. That caused even more questions to pop up. However, regarding being left with more questions than answers, The Conjuring 3 was as it promised. A thrilling, sometimes intense adventure into a glimpse of Ed and Lorraine Warren's paranormal experiences. I would definitely recommend it to others.
So I was equal parts excited and skeptical for The Conjuring 3. Excited because all of the Conjuring movies have been great. Skeptical because with the research we did for last week's episode, I was kind of predisposed to not like Debbie, and was somewhat curious about how that aspect would be shown. And of course, in typical Hollywood fashion, it was completely ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And they cast an actress who looked the same age as, if not slightly younger than, the actor playing Arnie.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you knew the story, nothing seemed off. And for the sake of the story they were telling, I get it. The entire cast was amazing, though. I felt that it was scarier than the previous 2 films in the Conjuring series. And I really think all of the body contortions and the cracking sounds helped it to be so. I thought it was interesting that one of the main things that we discussed was how demonic possession doesn't typically just stop. And the film actually addressed that very issue and did so in a way that was interesting and believable.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there were differences from what actually occurred to what the film portrayed, but I was impressed with how much they covered that was actually in the research that we did for last week's episode. I would highly recommend checking this film out.
Oh yes, highly. I was excited for it. Basically, I was excited just because it was The Conjuring 3. Come on. Like, all the Conjuring movies were amazing. I knew it was going to be different just because it is based off something, like with The Conjuring 3, I actually never knew any of the stories. So having Conjuring 3 come out and knowing the background, I actually enjoyed The Conjuring 3. It wasn't, I don't know. It didn't feel like the other Conjurings. Am I wrong?
In what way?
Like, it just...
It didn't. It was a different feel completely.
Yes.
It was darker.
Yes. Way darker. And I don't know. It just, like, it felt kind of like The Conjuring, but it didn't feel like it. Like, it felt like a whole different type of series.
I wonder if they're going to take them darker.
I wonder too. Just because it's Hollywood and they're like evolving. But yeah.
I really hope so. I do. I like, because you see, the thing is, what was fascinating to me about this, and just The Conjuring on the whole, is that in the past it has been focused on, yes, there have been like demonic possessions, but it was always an instance of like, it felt more like just a haunting, in the sense of it almost felt like a ghostly type of haunting. But with this one, they brought in the occult. It wasn't just somebody. Well, in the past, I felt like it was like somebody died and they left remnants of themselves or something.
Yes.
Even though we know that it was because of a witch, and it had bits of the occult in it again. Because I think the second one actually that we watched was it the first one?
I think it was the first one that you're talking about that had the witch.
Right. But in this one, it was a bit more involved.
Yeah.
And that is what made it so different from the others. So I'm so curious about the rest of the Warrens' cases. I would love to see more of it. I really, really would.
I know that Amityville has been done so many times, but I would love to see them do the Amityville. Yeah.
That would be cool.
Did they do that one?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh, they did the Amityville? That was Ed and Lorraine?
Yeah, I think they came in like after like the Lutz family had already moved out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were involved.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's interesting.
That would be interesting. So guys,
well, it's an idea to do later on.
Yes, definitely. Well, I hope they do. It will all be interesting. But what do you think our next movie will be? Our next movie that we can watch in the same universe, do you think? Are we moving away from that?
Ooh, I have no clue.
I mean, we still have like both of the Annabelle movies to watch and The Nun.
That was exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking Annabelle, and I was hoping one of you would say, let's watch Annabelle next. Because I've never brought myself to watch this on my own, literally. I
haven't watched them either.
Oh, great. I started and I was like, oh, nope, I'm not doing this on my own. So maybe we can. That would be awesome.
Yeah, we can just continue on with the Conjuring universe, and then once we reach the end of them, we can start on something else.
Yeah,
Good,
that sounds wonderful.
Yes. So, all right, everyone. That was the case of the Bell Witch. Thank you so much to all of you who have reached out to us and joined us through our social media accounts. We truly appreciate everything and every one of you. If you have a paranormal encounter that you want to share with us and would like to hear in a future episode, you can shoot us an email at blackcatcrossing, capital Z, capital A, capital B, capital S, at gmail.com. So that's blackcatcrossingzabs@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at blackcatcrossy2, on Facebook at Black Cat Crossing Podcast, or on Instagram at Black Cat Crossing Podcast. And don't forget, if you've missed this podcast when it airs, you can always catch it later on YouTube as well. Yes, guys, we do have a YouTube channel. It is Black Cat Crossing Podcast on YouTube. You can also keep up with us on our website, www.blackcatcrossing.co. This is the real.
Yeah, this is the real site.
This is the real site this time, guys. I promise it'll work. And we'll see you next time.
In the unknown.
I don't know why I'm wiggling my fingers.
I was like pounding my hand.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't know. Are we doing it again? Are we okay with that?
I think we're okay with that.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
All right.
It's not that bad.
We'll see.
Oh my god.